Oh, gosh. I sent it. There we go. There we go. Hey, everybody. Woo, I'm running crazy today. I tell you what. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad. Well, I'm home, so I'm not really being anywhere. But anyways, I'm glad you're here. I have a very special guest today. I'm super excited. I'm going to bring him on right now. James Schrader is a very funny comedian. He's a single dad. I believe his kids too. Got this cute little girl. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to bring on James. What is happening? Nobody.
Hello. Everything. Everything is happening all at once. So you know.
Woo! I was just introduced you completely muted. That was lovely. That was just.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we didn't test anything. It's just happening. Can you hear me good? Is it fine? Yeah. Is it coming through?
James, this is exactly why I don't have a real podcast, because yeah, I'm just like an infant.
Oh yeah, me too. Like, don't let the headphones and microphone fool you. Like,
you're fooling me.
I own all the equipment, and I still don't have a podcast.
I love it.
I'm still like, I don't. Is this really? What the hell am I gonna say to people?
Here, you know, let me introduce you again. Let's do this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. This is I Feel Like a Bad Mom Facebook Live with myself here, Lisa Gilbert. You already know that. And you're probably wondering, who is this bearded lady? It is not, in fact, a bearded lady. This is father and comedian James Schrader. I will tell you more about how I know him. Obviously, he's a comedian and a parent. But welcome.
Thank you for having
Facebook
me.
Live. For those of you joining in, possibly that haven't been here before, this is a Facebook Live where I talk about the feelings of really just not always being adequate as a parent.
What do you
And
mean always? What do you mean not
yeah,
always?
yeah. Thank you for that.
Wait, are you telling me there's moments that you're supposed to feel adequate as a parent?
Yeah.
When does that happen? When they're actually asleep and you're like, I did it. They're alive and they're asleep again.
Oh my gosh. Is bedtime is just like, all right, another day. For me,
they're alive, they're fed, they're clean.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I feel like I retired and then went right into teaching distance learning with my 8-year-old triplets. And yeah, and I feel like not always adequate. And as a matter of fact, let me give you a fine example. Today, I don't know, I yelled at one of my kids, as I often do, and Nathan says to me, Mom, I want to tell you something. You're the best mom. But sometimes you yell. And I think what you should do is you should just stop and breathe. And he does this.
I love that.
Just tell me calmly what you would like for me to do. Yeah. And part of me wanted to just cry because I'm like, why is my 8-year-old giving me parenting advice?
Right.
And
but it's also the best. It's also you're like, shit, that's something I should probably say to you someday when you're crying and losing it. You can just be like, take a deep breath. Tell me exactly what you need.
The thing is I was also like giving myself a high five. Like something I said to him actually like creeped in with the brain when you're angry. And
yeah, so they hear it all. They're getting it all.
Oh my goodness gracious. So that's what this, I feel like a bad mom Facebook Live came in, just because I wanted to give a platform and an opportunity for parents, mothers and fathers, to come in and just say what it is that you want to say, right? Not like I beat my kids, because not that, but just, I let my kids play video games. Today, I asked my husband, I was gone for a lot of the day, and I'm like, hey, what did the kids have for lunch? And he was like, oh, lunch? Okay. Chips. I think they had a Go-Gurt and maybe an apple. I'm like, okay, so nothing real formal. That's fine.
Hey, an apple's not bad. You got an apple in there.
I mean, I'm gonna
apple and yogurt.
He said they ate a lot of chips. I'm like,
yeah, okay. That's not bad.
So anyway,
it's funny how fast the day will get away from you, though, and all of a sudden you're like, it's like breakfast, and then all of a sudden it's like, shit, did we do lunch, or did she just have an apple, or just have a piece of fruit or some raisins, and then you're like, but the kid's fine. Kids also, like, they know when they're hungry, like the whole like breakfast, lunch, dinner thing. I get it, but I think we're learning, like, as a species, like that's not really how we were meant to eat. So like, I feel like my kid never stops eating. Like, I feel like my daughter is snacking throughout the day, which I also know is healthier as long as it's healthy things going in.
Right.
So whether it's, some cereal in the morning, and then some raisins, and then maybe a granola bar, and then we kind of have lunch with some turkey and some carrots, and then, maybe some blueberries after that an hour later, I feel like I feel like I'm always prepping, washing, and like wiping the counter, like the exact same 3 things in my kitchen.
Yeah.
Like the same, like the cutting board and the knife never go where they belong because they get used every 2 hours.
It's like this constant graze. We keep like bananas and apples and cuties. And they're just there.
Yeah.
But there is a cabinet that's got some, snacks in it. Like, they can get to stuff if for some reason they felt like they needed to. So, for me, I feel like I just want to be able to say, this is why sometimes I feel like a bad mom, and I don't want to have any judgment over it.
It's amazing how hard we are on ourselves.
I know.
It's so hard, whether it's the parenting thing or just your productivity, and with everything going on, it's like, what did I do today? What needs to be done? Like, I feel like this is hard for me from a work standpoint. Like, I kind of work where I live, and I guess everyone is now for and it's like, I have this issue where, like, if I have things I know I need to do for work, but everywhere I look, is a list of things that need to be done. Like I can sit at my desk and see the laundry, and I'm like, well, I should probably go start a load. I mean, if I'm going to sit here for an hour and work, I should have a load going. And then it's like, well, if I'm doing this, then there was something in the dryer. Now I got to put that away. And it's like, I think it's so, I don't know why it's so hard to just be like, hey, you did get things done today. You did have, I mean, and the hardest part is like when you're spending time with your kid and you see all the stuff around you that needs to get done. And then you're like, I'm doing these things that do have to get done, but I feel like I'm like neglecting my kid in the process.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, though, you can sit down and be like, you know what, though? We read those books. They were playing. And it wasn't like the kid was like sitting there like, what
are you doing?
Yeah, like, will you play with me? Like sometimes they do. But like you look over while you're doing these things and they're engaged. They're coloring, they're painting, they're reading a book, they're, whatever. And so I need to like remind myself that like that is honestly her playing by herself and engaging with toys and books and crayons and things and just manipulating the world and interacting and touching and falling and jumping. That's all truthfully way more important for her development than me being like, Daisy, this is how a zipper works. Do you see do you see the zipper thing? If I just gave it to her and walked away, she'd figure it out.
Yeah.
But I think there's this need of like, I have to be for everything. And then when we're not because of other responsibilities, then we feel guilty because we like weren't there. Meanwhile, your kid literally fell down twice, balance is better, manipulated putty, painted a picture, is proud of themselves for building a tower out of blocks. Like they've had this whole little world of achievement and exploration that you weren't a part of.
Yeah.
But we only see that like we're not right there.
Right.
And then it's hard
to do. It's tough. I'm trying to sometimes I have to stop and say, well, before I do that, I want to just say this. James is a comedian, super funny. I'll put his website up in just a minute, but he's hysterical. I can't even tell you where I saw you first, but I can tell you that I became a little low-key stalker. And what I mean by that is if I saw that you were someplace local, then I would make sure that I was there to watch that show. And if I was able to be on a show with you, even more exciting. I think we've been on a few shows.
Handful, yeah.
But
well, thank you. That's
you're also a single dad.
Yeah.
Right. Your daughter is 2. Is that right?
2 years, 10 months right now. She's almost
2 years, 10 months, almost 3.
Yeah, time is flying.
So with that, right now we're parents and we're juggling comedy, and comedy is in the evening, which is a good thing, unless of course your evening comedy shows are a weekend gig.
Right, out of town or something like that.
Right, you're a headliner, so you're out there with your weekend gigs. So what I'm trying to do now is during the day, there's a certain amount of time where the kids are going to need to just play on their own. And I have the benefit of half a daycare in my house, right? So I've made 3, I've got 3. There's toys in the house. You know where the snacks are. So just
there's a gate. You're safe in the padded room.
Yes. Right. I got things to do.
Yeah.
And also sometimes if I have been gone, I have to sometimes stop myself because there's always stuff to do in the house.
Yeah.
I've got a family of 5. Fortunately, my husband does his own laundry, which is a godsend. But there's still this rotating laundry. We pick up on a regular basis because otherwise the house it's too much if we don't do that. But sometimes I do have to say to myself, just sit down on the couch. Or one of the kids will be like, hey, Mom, you're going to watch a little TV with us? And then I have to just say to myself, stop, Lisa. Because
normally you'd see them all facing the same direction quietly and you'd be like, I can get shit done. I can go do something.
Yes.
They're fine. Nobody's asking me for anything. I can go do something.
What can I do right now?
Yeah.
I'll put them on a tablet for like 2 hours and then I can get some stuff done.
And then you feel guilty about handing them a tablet for 2 hours.
Yeah. Actually, 2 hours I don't. When it's like 6 hours that day, then sometimes I'm like, okay, what did I get done in that 6 hours? Lisa, you better have a good list of what you got done in 6 hours if your kid's been on that PlayStation for 6 hours.
Yeah. Whatever part of their brain is now melted. What we get done. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all tough. It's all some weird like give and take decision, this balance of like what is, good
I
what
know.
is good parenting? I don't know. Were our
You
parents
know,
good
it's
parents?
subjective. It's similar to comedy.
It really is.
If you
Yeah.
think
Like
about it,
what
I
is
mean,
good parenting?
you probably can get away more on a stage than you could, parenting, because there's some laws and things about,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
beat your
yeah.
kids. But it definitely, it is literally from the time that I wake up to the time that my kids go to bed that I am not worried, but definitely concerned about my interactions with them
Yeah. Like
and
how like
wanting for
the
those
frequency or the
interactions.
quality or both? Like if
All
there's not enough of them, like you're not getting enough time with them, or even the time you are with
yeah,
them,
I mean,
you're
so
distracted and it's not like you're right here with them, like in the moment.
yeah, I can't be nonstop all the time with
Mhm.
them, and I can't be like interacting with them the entire day. There's no way for me to do
Yeah.
that, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, and if my husband's working evenings, if he's home, I'd like the kids to go to bed so the two of us at least end up in the same bed at night,
Yeah.
and hopefully, unless we're frustrated with each other, we're saying something. We're
Yeah.
saying something to each other, and we end up in the same place, right?
Yeah. With a little bit of time before you're both that exhausted that it's
Completely. I
yeah.
sometimes he'll be talking to me, and I'm asleep, and then he wakes in the morning. He's like, you fell asleep on me, and I'm like, yeah, probably, or vice versa, right? So
Yeah.
there are things that have to be done during the day, because when it is bedtime for you, then it is also my time,
Yeah.
and
That's your
and
only
that's
time.
important.
Yeah.
That's important for our own, mommy and daddy mental health.
Especially mommy and daddy. Like that's the one thing that I look back and at the two marriages I've had. The first one I had stepdaughters, and the second one my wife and I had my daughter. But that was one thing that I really realized was like finding a way to keep that time for just you and your best friend, because the kids are great and we love them and we made them, and
Yeah,
that's but like we know how much work this took before there were kids here, and now we are getting less sleep and have more stress. And how hard was it to just keep this really in a really good place and good communication and all that before these kids showed up?
yeah,
And so it's even harder, and that's I think that's important. I think that
yeah.
played a part in both of my marriages and the difficulties that I had there, and it's just so damn hard. It's like it's the hardest thing I've ever done.
And
Parenting is
there's
the
no
hardest.
book.
There's
I'm
no
telling
book.
you,
I mean, there's more books than there's ever been. I will say there's a few podcasts that I've listened to.
but
There's
can
a
they
few
really?
Instagram things that and they're more like it's almost like motivate. It's almost like if you follow like Gary V, the business guy, where he has all these like business motivational entrepreneurship. It's like the same thing, but for parenting, where it's like just one sentence that just pretty much says like, you know, when you see, just anything from like when you see that your toddler is engaged in an activity, but they're doing it wrong, don't correct them. It's more just let them fit, like these little things that are just like little trinkets of like,
Yeah,
like, oh, okay, stay the course, let them be a kid. Don't expect too much, but also engage when it's right and
right.
cherish those moments and forgive yourself for, I mean,
It's
parenting is nothing but,
forgiving yourself, which is the biggest thing.
yeah,
For me, it's
right.
it's when I'm like, just like, it's the end of the day, and I need you guys to go to sleep. And if I
What
have to
time's your
come back
bedtime?
in here again, there's gonna be some trouble,
Yeah.
right? If I gotta, and I'm gonna call out the big guns, aka your dad. Like, go to sleep. Just
What time is bedtime?
so we typically try to get the kids in bed by like 8:30 at the latest.
Okay.
So my husband should
Good.
be
So that
putting
gives you
most
another
of
hour and a
the
half,
bed.
2 hours,
Yeah,
depending on what
yeah.
time you go to bed, to
And then
just
they're
have some
up.
quiet time.
They're up at my husband gets them up about 6:30. They normally get up around 7, so they've been getting up
Mm.
during school days. He gets them up and takes them to work out.
Oh, that's great.
So it's
How
nice
old are
for
your boys now?
they're, well, 2 girls and a boy.
2 girls and a boy, sorry. 2
They're
girls
going
and
to
a
be
boy.
9. What are we in September? They're going to be 9 at the end of the
Right.
month, end of next month.
Wow.
So that time gives me just a minute in bed to
Morning to
nobody in
wake
the
up
house,
and
which I never
be a
get. I
person.
never get time with nobody in this house. About an hour with nobody in the house, and then I get up, make the breakfast, whatever, and then we kind of carry on the day. But I'm fortunate because my husband's very involved He's listening now, so I'm going to say sometimes too involved, honey. I wish that you stay in your dad lane and get out of my mom lane. And
But that's still appreciated.
Yep, still appreciated, because somebody said to me once, it's better that he's over involved than not involved.
Yeah.
And yeah, probably.
What do you mean by stay in the lane, though? Because as a dad, that's interesting to me.
Is it? No, that's good. Well, I think that try to give you a good example. I don't know if it's a specific thing necessarily. Like, there are certain things that I just take care of. I for the most part, I do their laundry. And my husband could easily do it and do it well. The difference between he and I is when my husband does laundry and puts it away, every piece of their laundry has to be folded, including underwear.
He does. So he's more meticulous than you are.
He is definitely with that. Okay. And I ain't got time for that. There's a box that the underwear get thrown in. Yeah. Why are we going to fold them?
There's a reason why we got a box. Yeah. It's not in the drawer. It's in a box. You throw it in. Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. But for me, I can probably get the laundry done a little quicker on my own.
Yeah. But folding takes you half the time.
He likes for us to do the laundry together. I don't do it as much as I should with him, but he does. So I would say that. I would say I think more so just if I've got something going on, let me just continue with what it is that I'm doing.
Like with the kids. Like if you're engaged with the kids and you have your agenda or something you're teaching them or something you're doing with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't need help.
I'm in my lane now. Me and we're in this lane now. So you can be in the lane next to us and kind of join in and kind of watch and listen, but let's not
start steering the ship.
Yeah.
Like you're like, I'm at the helm. I'm steering the ship.
We're good.
I don't need someone adjusting the throttles or the steering wheel.
No, no.
But I think as a parent, because there are times I feel that from the other side, and this maybe your husband feels this. I've felt that before from the other side, where you're like, oh, like I should be engaged. I should be a part of this and be supportive to my partner. And I should, and we're a team and we should that. And so I think part of it is like, we try to like step. So we're like by your side, but by doing so, we literally like drag the ship over, and we don't mean to necessarily, but like now instead of like falling in line behind you and we're all here on the train of discovery of whatever, we like try to stand next to, and it literally kind of just strays. And whether we intend to or not, it's all in good intent.
Absolutely.
And I think that's also something like even with a kid, like when you see your kid and your kid's really engaged, leave them alone. They're in it. They're in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing with like your spouse or your partner. If they're engaged with the kid or in their thing or doing the thing or whatever it is, whether it's discipline or fun or whatever, like if they're in it, they have it. But it's hard not to. And I think you feel like you're supporting them. I think you feel like I'm what do you mean? I'm trying to help. Yeah. I'm trying to like be a part of your team. I'm trying, like, we're a team, right? But at the same time, sometimes the team captain is on the field. Sometimes, like it's different. Sometimes the quarterback's making the call. Sometimes someone else. So the kicker's making the, who knows? But
we're both very, very involved with the kids. And it's not certainly not a complaint. I know that there are times when my husband's in the middle of doing something with the kids, and absolutely, like there, I set him out there for a movie, and I kicked him out. Which I told him when he puts the kids to bed, he can come back in and lay in bed as long as he's quiet. And so I walk out, and he's got the basketball game on, and I'm like, honey, did you turn off their movie? Like, why did you turn off their movie?
Well, what were they doing at that point?
They were watching a movie.
No, but what were they doing after he turned basketball on?
They were just sitting there waiting for him to finish the end of the game, so that because I kicked him out of here. So they're just watching basketball.
What's wrong with watching basketball?
Because they were in the middle of a movie, James. He interrupted their movie so he could watch basketball. Were they complaining?
Were they pounding on your door saying, "Mommy, Daddy, turn the movie off"?
And this is a prime example of staying in our own lane.
Right. Of where you saw it and you're like, what are you doing? He's like, I had it. Until you walked into the room, everything was still fine. Yeah. And then you got here and decided that what you left isn't what you found. Therefore, you came in to change it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in your mind, you're like, but I thought I was helping. I'm like,
yeah. Yeah. Well, and that I think is something that, I was just mentioning this today. He had some friends over doing some football draft, and one of the things that we were saying is for he and I, we met in I don't know when we met, but we dated for a year and we got married.
Mm-hmm.
We got married in March. We got pregnant on our honeymoon.
Wow.
And we delivered triplets in October. So they were born a month early. We barely.
Thank God. Triplets.
Yeah.
Thank God they were.
I had a bit of a rough pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't have time. Then all of a sudden we had
you.
kids.
Yeah.
We've only just begun. We've only just really begun to learn about each other and our relationship really within the last, I don't know, 4 years or so.
Yeah.
Once the kids hit 5, hit like 5 and they could really honestly dress themselves and we could put food at the table and then maybe, have a conversation over here or so we're just now, I was teasing him today with his friends and I'm like, I'm just realizing now, how much of a jerk he is. And vice versa, although I'm a perfect wife. But
I'm sure you're perfect.
But we're just now kind of figuring out on top of, like you were saying, right? You have yourself as a couple and then you have the kids.
Well, hold on. And before that, though, you have yourself, which, let's face it, is a basket case in its own world.
And we're
still figuring out how to just be that.
Right. And
then now you're a relationship, which is all your baggage,
right?
With all this baggage, figuring out how to, become a solidified team unit, whatever.
Yeah, a bigger bag of baggage.
And then all of a sudden, kids.
Great time. Yeah.
God, 3. Oh my goodness.
So we're just now kind of starting to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to weave all the stuff with the kids kind of in there. And what does that look like? And how is that? And, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I feel like it's worth it. Like neither of us neither of us mean any harm to the other.
Right. And that's important.
I may go out there and be like, dude, why in the heck are you watching basketball? But then I have to kind of stop myself because what happened is he was in here lounging. He's got to work at 5 a.m. He's in here laying down in bed, watching his basketball game. I'm out there with the kids watching whatever Disney movie with them.
And then you kicked him out.
I kicked him out.
Yeah.
And I kicked him out at the end of the game. So there was nothing to hurt by going out there and saying, kids, I need to watch the end of this game, and then you can go right back to your movie.
And then the translation behind all of that is, Daddy needs his brain to work, and I was watching a game, and that's part of my wind down because I got to be up in the morning and I got things to do. But this is what Daddy enjoys. This is Daddy's peaceful. Like this is my meditative place of watching sports and sitting on I've got 6 minutes left, and I need those 6 minutes.
And I crushed
it. And then and he ruined it.
But this is the thing is that this is one of those things where I have to really take a step back often as a wife, and even more so as a mother, because I can explain more to my husband. Whereas the kids, I feel like I don't want to say or do something that's going to just be planted into their brain or their heart forever. Like I'm trying to,
you don't want to say or do the wrong thing. Right. And then that's when you second guess it. But then I think there's this beauty in they hear everything. And it's shocking what they do. You'll hear them remember or say something, or you're they recite something from a TV show that was one time that they saw, and you're amazed, and you're well, if they remember that, they have to remember everything. But I also think there's some stuff where again, we are in no way perfect parents, and no parent has ever been perfect. And we are literally we are every new generation. This is my weird out foo-foo universe take. Every new generation is the next evolution of consciousness. We look at evolution like a species, that they used to have this, and then they came out of the water because they're webbed, their fins had toes and they could walk on the mud. And then the next, there's this evolution picture that we discuss that's like that. But consciousness itself is a level of evolution. But it's like a computer, because it's what it is. It's like just processing the data, except we are aware of the processor, right? So like a dog is a dog, and his brain is a computer too, and it's processing all the input that comes in, and then it processes through a lens of or a filter of instinct, and then instinct comes out, and that's what it does with that information. We process all this information that comes in. It runs through a lens of instinct, because we have instinct, and then it also runs through a layer of consciousness, which is all of like every moment in our lives that's ever happened, and our brain took that and uses that as data to then calculate what to do and how to like operate ourselves in this exact moment.
Right.
But we're aware of that process, where a dog is not aware of his process. And that's the consciousness. So we, as like every generation of human is like the next evolution of consciousness. So like compared to, like, I had this conversation with my mom actually, where I look back, I was talking to her about my childhood, and I said, hey, did you ever notice this? Like as a kid, I would do this thing, or I would like one of them was, I asked her, I was like, did you ever notice that sometimes I would get overstimulated and just remove myself? I was the youngest of 3 boys. So I had 2 older brothers and my parents and together, and we traveled in the summers and things like that. And like, I realized like as a youngest kid, there's no such thing as boundaries or privacy, because you're the youngest. No one cares. Right. I shared a room with my brothers till high school. Like there was zero, like alone, zero, any, And so I just asked my mom, I said, did you ever notice I did that? That I would just overstimulate, and I would just self-soothe by just like taking a lap or going away on my own or playing somewhere by myself. She's like, no, you didn't do that. I was like, that's not what I asked. I asked you if you ever noticed that I did. She's like, no, you didn't do that. And I was like, you're not hearing me. I did that all the time. All the time. And it's something I didn't even realize what I was doing at the time. I learned as an adult, because I caught myself doing it, where if I'm even at clubs and stuff, I'll just get over, it's too much. There's too many people, there's too much energy, too much things, and I just need to literally like go out and take a lap and just walk by myself and be outside and breathe and whatever, because I just get a little overwhelmed. And it was interesting, because talking to her, I considered my parents really engaged, really involved. I felt like I could talk to my parents about anything. Literally, I could ask them about anything. I was very comfortable with my parents. But I realized like my mom had minimal idea of how I was actually doing as a human. But what I realized is her mom had no idea. And her mom's mom didn't even care. They were, my grandma was like a child of the Depression. Her parents were living through the Depression with children. Like, they don't give a shit how you're doing as a human. That's not even on the awareness level of it. Like, you're alive. Yeah. Like we all shared a loaf of bread today. You should be thankful, you know, where I look at my daughter and I'm like, where is she as a baby? Like, where is she? She's 2. Like what can she be aware of? That, like, and that's the thing where like maybe I'm a little too foo-foo, but at the same time, I'm also like, hey, oh, you're crying. What happened? That hurts when that happens. Like I am more in touch with her emotions than I'm probably in touch with my own. But it's making me hold the mirror up to myself and be like, hey, if you're teaching the next version of evolution, like, we can teach out what I think is like this stuff that is like the baggage of consciousness from before, like racism, sexism, things like that. Like, that's all shit that was built by people before you that told you this is how the world is. And they built these walls around you that became your reality. So it's in you. You believe this stuff until you question the walls around you and go, well, who put that wall there? Why do I have this wall in my consciousness that like, this is how the world is? Oh, because somebody else put it there and told me this is how the world is. But I can push that wall over and build my own wall where I want it to be, of where's my boundary with these things? What do I think about this? And that's what the beauty of consciousness. So I look at parenting as like everything that it took me till I was 30 to learn and realize that like I'm in control of how I think and feel and believe. And like I can look at any situation, and just because that person that I valued their opinion thinks this way about this one thing in life, it doesn't make them a horrible person. It means they've got shit they need to work to, but I can recognize that and learn from it. And I can change. This sounds weird. I can be the change I want to see in the world. Right. And then I look at my daughter and go, well, if I was 30 when I learned that, how do I teach you how to do it at 10 or 15? Yeah. How do I get you there faster so you are a better human than I am? Right. Yeah. Right. And that's what I think is like this magnificent thing, that we have that opportunity. Meanwhile, all of the stresses of life are still upon us, and our own bias and our own, I didn't do anything yesterday. It was so hot. I literally stayed inside my house. My daughter's at her mom's, and I had shows at night, but during the day yesterday, I literally never opened the blinds. I was in the dark the entire time. And part of me needed that. It was a rough week. It was a long week. And between the heat and everything, I was like, that's okay. Take the day. It's fine.
Yeah.
I wrote a song. I wrote jokes. I listened to 2 of my sets. I edited some stuff for podcast. Like, I actually got work done. But at the same time, I was like, you never really like got out of your PJs.
Right.
What a horrible person you are.
So how are you handling, how long have you been doing comedy?
8 years. October will be 8 years here. So 8 years. Yeah. May 10th, 2012 was my first like I'm doing this for real open mic.
How are you dealing with that and being a dad? And so when you've got to travel.
Well, unfortunately, this is a weird way to put it. I'm lucky enough that I'm divorced and my kid goes back and forth. So I have every other weekend off from my child, which is heartbreaking, while at the same time gives me the ability to do comedy. Like if I have my daughter, for the most part, I'm not doing comedy. So I have my daughter every other weekend, and I have my daughter every Monday, Tuesday, no matter what. And then every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it works for both of us. I think that's kind of like a standard. It's called a 2-2-7. It's like a standard, the schedule for children going back and forth. So that allows me on the weekends I don't have my daughter to really book heavy. I mean, this was before COVID. I could like book heavy. And I was, if I didn't have my daughter, I was at a club. I was doing shows. I had a span of about 2 months because of World Series of Comedy. When I went there, I placed second. And part of that was you won a bunch of feature work at clubs around the country.
Right.
And so I did right before COVID. It was like the end of last year, actually. I think it was 3 months in a row. I think it was like 5 weekends where I went and did shows, and then I had my daughter, and then I went and did shows, and I had my daughter, and it was like I was gone. I think it was like 4 or 5 weekends in a row that I didn't have my kid. And that was even though I don't have my kid, it's not like I'm away from her or like she's at the house without me. Even that was hard. And it was just being on the road that much made me really question, like, okay, how do I want to do this? What is, like, I don't know if I want to be a road dog that's 35.
Are you doing comedy full time?
No, comedy does not. Comedy is yet to pay bills of really any kind. Right now, with everything shut down, I just did. I want to say I performed 4 times, and that was in the past 3 weeks, and then before that, it was like 4 months since I'd been on stage.
Yeah.
Because I mean, with the clubs are shut down and that, and I haven't been one, like, I'm not really interested in the Zoom thing. I find the audience such a necessity.
Yeah, I've done about
energy
4 Zoom comedy shows, I don't like them. Yeah,
I just don't. I don't know. It depends on what you're trying to get out of it. I don't see for myself the return on that investment is not going to be. I feel bad enough when I have an okay set in front of people, let alone even an okay set across the internet with people that you can't. Can you even hear them laugh? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, you can see them laugh. So you gotta.
You just see that,
or this.
Even
like, why are you on this Zoom show? We can see your face close up, like you're not in the back of a club somewhere with your nose smiling or laughing.
Right.
Those are the people that come after the show and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was a great show." And I'm like, "Really?" Because I saw you laugh at all, none.
Right. Well, I mean, that happens at shows too. You do a show and 100 people. It's just some weird vibe that comes over the room where you just get 100 people that are all arms crossed, like,
yep,
just smiling. And then after the show, they're like, "That was amazing." And it's like, you didn't make a noise.
Like, you didn't even laugh. Yeah,
you didn't even laugh. But they love it. That's the weird part. That's on us for judging them and expecting some, like, this is the only way to respond to my jokes. If you're sitting. I kind of, a buddy of mine told me one time when he watched me perform, and I'm more of like a storyteller, which you are too. And he was just telling me, he's like, it's funny watching you. He's like, because you'll go 30 seconds, 45 seconds without a laugh sometimes because you're just talking, you're just telling a story. He said, but what's funny is, like, you'll see the audience and they'll start back and then they're kind of like engaged. and they're listening, and they'll slowly lean in, and then I hit a punchline, however long that takes, and they go ha ha ha, and they set back and they like reset, and then they slow, and that was a really kind of interesting thing to learn, because then it was like, because trust me, when I was starting and I'd go 30 seconds without a laugh, that's a long time. That's a long time without a laugh. That's a silent room. But that's when I realized that if it's actual silence, if they're, as long as they're not checking their phone and talking to the person next to them because they're still engaged, it doesn't matter if they're laughing. If they're engaged, you have them. And the truth is, the longer you can build that tension, if you can take them 30 seconds without laughing and you just build that tension and build that tension, that release is going to actually be bigger. Is, you know, if you hit the punchline right and you have one, that will be a bigger release. And there's power in that too, of like, you know, I'm going to make them uncomfortable. They're going to start realizing after 45 seconds that we haven't laughed. Yeah. They're going to know it's a long time, but God, when they do.
One of the cool things, which you'll get to do, you know, in a few years or so, but when your kid gets to come to a show and watch a show, I'm telling you, the best shows I've had, I think, are when my kids are there sitting in the front row.
Now you're clean? Are you?
Yeah,
you are clean. Yeah.
Yeah. But you've got stuff that if your kid was older, you've got stuff that, you've got stuff.
I'm sure there's something.
One of my favorite jokes of yours is the one, and I haven't seen you do it in a while, but the one where you talk about your face.
Oh, yeah.
You go to a park.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's pretty clean. I mean, it's
that
funny.
One's pretty clean. That one's pretty clean.
Yeah, it's also, you know, comparing my face to that of a child molester.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's clean.
So, yeah. I mean, you can put it on television. Right. Yeah, there are no cuss words.
But it's great to be, it's great to hear my kids, not only will they recite my jokes, sometimes give away my punchlines. I always tell them, you cannot sit in the front row if you're going to give away my punchlines. Like,
and never teach them that now. You should never sit in the front row of a comedy club.
You cannot. But then it's so fun to hear them laugh, especially when I tell a joke and it's a joke. Most of my jokes are about them, and you know, and then I can hear them say, "That's me, that's me." I mean, it's so
that's sweet.
And I think it helps a little bit that my kids have been to a show, so that when I say at night, "Look, mommy's been home all day.
Yeah, I got a show.
And tonight I have a show."
Yeah.
So that means after dinner, I'm going to be leaving to go to my show. And when I come in, right, I'll kiss you goodnight. You'll be asleep and I'll see you in the morning. But it's nice because they know where I'm going and what I'm going to do because they've been there.
Yeah. Where my daughter, it's funny, she has no idea, but she's 3. She hardly understands. If you told if I told her I was an accountant, she wouldn't know what I do either.
Right.
But it's like, it is so kind of out of the realm that until they see it, that's really like, I've thought about that. If I go back to Florida, like my stepdaughters live there from my previous, and I was like, that'd be fun. Like they're like 15, 16 now. So like they're old enough that they could like understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. I mean, it's you know, trying to help them, like you were talking about before, kind of, you know, the way the mind works and the way, you know, you parent a bit the way your parents parented. And for me, a lot of what I was brought up in a single home, and there's a lot
Mom or dad?
Mom. A lot of who I am and what I do is from watching my mother and what she did. Yeah. But there's also a lot that I do because she didn't, and there's a lot that I don't do because she didn't. Right. And so the biggest thing for me is, I don't want my kids to have to do therapy based on the things that I did to them during childhood.
I think you're asking too much of yourself.
I'm just saying, I would prefer that.
Yeah, but I also think you need, because that I only push back on that because to me that's like you're setting yourself up for failure, and I say that from a standpoint of like, you're going to screw up your kids. Well, the goal is to screw them up less than your parents screwed you up.
Understand this though,
right?
I come from a perspective of 25 years of child welfare where I was a social worker. So I come from the place of these kids that I worked with for all these years, their parents jacked them up.
Yeah.
Where they started in on therapy as young kids.
Was it neglect or abuse?
All of it.
Okay.
So for me, I feel like when I say that, I am a bit comparing and saying when I don't, I'm not saying I'm going to be a perfect parent or that I am a perfect parent. Um, but I don't, yeah, I don't want my kids to have to go to therapy because something that I've done that was really jacked up. I'm not saying I'm not okay with them going to therapy because I think therapy is phenomenal.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And I think this is going to kind of contradict what I just said, but I think, I think whether you feel like you got issues or not,
Well, I think it's for everybody. I think
therapy's
it's
not
like,
a
I
bad
think
thing.
you're like your car. Your
It's a
car needs
great,
a tune-up. Your car
it's,
needs an oil change and a tune-up just to keep it
yeah,
running well. So does your
yeah.
brain.
Yeah,
I
and
thought
you're not gonna get on Facebook and post all your stuff or tell your other
no, not
friends.
to
And
do it.
so I don't want my kids. I would prefer my kids to not have to,
You would
to
prefer
not
that
be.
they were dealing with issues that weren't about what you did and more
Yeah,
about what they want.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
want my kids to know that regardless of what they do, I'm going to love them.
Yeah. That's one
And they
that
say that. They
I've been
say when
trying to
I'm
do.
mad and I'm like, you better not, whatever I'm
Yeah.
doing. And they'll say, Elijah mostly will be like, Mom, you're really mad right now. But I know you still love me, right? And I'm like, dang it, yes.
I love the level of understanding. That's beautiful though, because that right there is everything.
Yeah,
That right there, the fact that he totally gets that, because I think that's one of the hardest ones for parents is like we have to be stern. And I think that's also what creates, I don't want to say bad parents, but that creates a difficult situation because I think there's this whole generation that's they want to be their kid's friend and not their kid's parent. They want to be a cool parent.
yeah,
And so they're like, no, I'm your buddy. And it's like, I think there's a layer of that can happen. But at the same time, like, we're not, like, I look at Daisy and just be like, listen, I'm your dad. My job is to just teach you how to be a person. And you're going to make mistakes and we're going to learn from those mistakes. I'm never mad at something you do. I'm here to discuss how we can do it better next time. And even that I catch like it's, you have to lay down the law in the standpoint of like the rules are here to protect you. And here's why you should follow them. But then there's like that gap of like understanding of what that actually means and when they
right.
can comprehend that. But at the same time, like you can't just be a friend. Like I don't know where I was going with that. But I love the fact that your child understands that is like you're winning. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just, and I can't say that I'm not a parent that doesn't say I'm not mad at what my kids do. I have said to my
Well, I mean,
kids,
what's that mean though? Because that's my own thing too, where I catch myself and I'm pissed off because again, like there's all these things I have to do and I'm stressed and tomorrow we got
right,
to get to bed and it's later than I wanted, but you need a bath and da 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 da. And then you do the thing or you spill the thing and whatever anger, because that's my own thing of like what and from a standpoint of like even anyone's mistake, like what is anger? Is anger to me is something that happens, but it's an emotion that I can recognize and
yeah,
go, I'm expelling energy and thought to this thing that it doesn't fix it, it doesn't help it, it doesn't improve it. Anger to me is this waste of energy. So I catch myself being angry, and that's when and that's when I have to rein myself in,
right,
which having her there as this person of like I mean every parent their patience game as soon as you have a kid, whatever level of patience you have, it's about to get higher. It
yeah,
should. Like our patience game is
yeah,
going up, right? So, and that's the thing is like, I think the kid gives you this opportunity and holds the mirror up of like a kid spills a glass of water. Well, if you spilled a glass of water, how long would you be on your own case for that? If your kid spills a glass of water, it's funny how all the other stresses can come down and you're like, oh, like it's, and
yeah,
you can
yeah,
have that moment of like, oh, I can't believe this, and then you're like, what the hell am I doing? One, why am I upset with a 3-year-old for spilling something?
right,
Like three, like, okay, deep breath. So, and then you look at him, you go, hey, sometimes things spill.
yeah,
You didn't mean to do that. That's okay. I'll get, paper towels and you can help me clean it up. How's that? Yay. And then we're back to what. So anger is just it's hard because it just creeps in and it's intensified by all the other stresses.
yeah. It's mostly not. There are times when I've said to my kids, look, I love you guys with everything I have,
Yeah.
but right now, yeah, I'm leaving the house. Well, can we go? No, you cannot go.
Yeah.
No,
I
I'm
will
gonna
be back.
have some time. I'm not gonna leave forever,
Right.
but I need to take this trip to the store on my own. I need to go. I'm
Well, and that sounds like
driving me nuts right now,
yeah,
and I feel like I'm not like you're a little brat or you're a little like. There's none of that. But
right,
I absolutely do say to my kids, right or wrong, like we were saying, comedy and parenting is subjective, right?
right.
Um, and what somebody else could think is a horrible thing, somebody else could think is a great thing. But for me,
Yeah,
I
somebody
will
fully thinks you should
kid.
beat your kids.
Look,
Somebody thinks that's the best. Beat
yeah,
your kids. My dad beat the hell out of me. I beat the hell out of my kid. That's how you do it.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm
But
not on that page, but
I'm gonna say to my kids, look, right now you're really making me frustrated. I'm getting angry at the fact that I'm asking you to do these things and you're just not doing it. Or
right.
I may also point out, I asked you to pick up your stuff and you didn't. So now I'm coming back. I'm stopping you from what you're doing right now to have you come back in and pick up your stuff. For just a second, let me just hip you to something. If you'd have picked it up the first time,
We wouldn't be here.
so
We'd be
just
done.
think about that. Whatever, whether you understand it at 8 years old or whether you don't understand it, at some point you will. And the fact that my son sat me down tonight and said, Mom, sometimes you get angry and you yell, and I think what you should do is you should just breathe. And
That's
then
that's what I did the first 3 times.
I'm like, didn't you see me? I was breathing. I was breathing. He's like, no, not like this, like this. And then just tell me calmly what you'd like me to do. And in my head, like I said, I'm like, this is beautiful because you're listening. I'm
Right.
sad because I'm getting advice from an 8-year-old. But at the same time, I'm like, no, dude. No, dude.
Well, at the same time,
I could
yeah,
tell you really calmly and you still probably wouldn't do it.
exactly. And the first 2 times you asked, you were calm. You walked in the room and you're like, "Hey guys, before you do that, can you clean up your mess, please? Thanks." And then you came back and you're like, "What happened to the thing? I asked the thing so calmly and sweetly."
What are
And
you
you
doing?
didn't do
Did
it.
you know that there were 2 pair of shoes and a pair of shoes? Did you know there were 2? Because you left one in there still in the pair of
Yeah.
shoes. Yeah. Yeah. Keeping myself calm and not letting the stress of everything else
That's the hard one.
down on
Not
them.
letting all the other stuff.
That is, I mean, that's like, it's not minute by minute because I certainly have more self control than that, but I recognize it a lot. I'll even say, like at bedtime, we have cuddle time at the end of the night.
Mhm.
So that may be 15 minutes, it may be a half an hour. Right now, it's, we watch a movie together. So we're all together and we're all there on the couch.
Mm.
And then I put them all to bed and I rub their tummies. So I have some individual just FaceTime.
Yeah.
I rub their tummy and I say, "You're the best of all my kids." And then I move on to the next one.
Every parent I know that has multiple parents
Of all my kids. And then I rub the next one. The only one that's not a lie is when I say to Zoe, "You're my best girl," because she's my only girl.
Right. That's so funny. Everyone I know that has multiple kids
Says
tucks
that.
their kids in by whispering.
My friend Colleen is watching, and she has triplets and then twins.
Oh,
Yeah. And then Kim Miller has triplets, and I'm sure you all can comment that at some point you probably all said to your kids, "You're the best."
to each one.
You're the best. You're the best. But sometimes at bedtime, I'm like, "Look, I just rubbed all of your bellies, which means that you should just, it's time now to let everything go and just lay still and be still."
Yeah.
But you're not. And I'm getting super frustrated. And so what I'm going
By
to
the way,
do
that
now,
energy is not helping.
I'm going to leave the
Yeah,
room.
yeah.
Because if I don't leave, then I feel like I may yell, and I don't want to yell at you and leave you like that.
Yeah. How do you go to sleep when someone's yelling at you too? How does that calm you down? Yeah.
Right.
And again, your frustration in the moment, your energy in the room is of tension.
Yeah. No,
which doesn't allow you to relax and fall asleep.
I don't want you all to think that I'm this great parent and that I that I always do that. But I would say the majority of the time I'm pretty good at starting out by like, "Look," and then I'm like, "Okay, you guys, I'm gonna lose it in a minute and I don't want to, so I'm gonna step out. And I really need you guys to just, it's time to go to bed."
Yeah. I used to, with my stepdaughters, I would lay on their floor And this was before I was ever into like breathing exercises or meditation, really, or any of that stuff. But I would lay on their floor and I would just breathe loudly. And I'd be like, and they'd be like, I can't fall asleep. I don't know what to do. And I'd be like, all right, cool. Let's lay in your bed, breathe with me. And I just, and I do that. And and the funny thing was like, if I wasn't careful, I'd fall asleep. But I'd find that like 5-6 minutes of that, just breathing and then breathing, because it just, we're just letting the oxygen in, relaxing the muscles, we're letting the oxygen, and even now I do that with my daughter all the time. Like I always, the same thing. I rub her tummy or her back. I sing. Usually I'll make a limit, because if I don't, she'll just like, I'll be singing and singing. So I'll be like, all right, 2 songs. And I sing her 2 songs and if she's still not asleep, I've ohmed to her. That was something I used to do as a baby. If she was up, I would just hold her and just literally, like, just as silly as it sounds, just which is very hippie, whatever. But like, it's some soothing stuff. It's good stuff. Yeah. So that's one where, like, if you're in that state, it might help you to sit on the floor and go, everyone close your eyes. We're just going to breathe. We're just going to breathe together. Because if you, even when you leave the room, you just took all that tension with you. Now you're in the next room with that shit, and your husband's sitting there, and you looked at him and you brought all that tension from one room to the other. Yeah. And now he's getting full face with like, I wasn't even there. Like, what is this coming at me for? Like, I was quiet. It was beautifully peaceful in this room till you got here and brought all that, so that's one where that could work for everyone, really. And that's what, I'd highly recommend trying that, because that just might be the thing that, like, in those moments, because it is so fun. You're like, just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. You need to sleep. Just go to sleep. Just please go to sleep. Like, I need
you to sleep.
For your own good.
Lets you sleep. And it's really right now about me. So I just need you to go to sleep.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of parenting that is just about me.
Right. And so you can do the things you need to do like parenting is only like, you got to pay for the food too, kid. I got to clean the house. I got to wash your clothes. Like, the parenting is just this portion of the big picture.
Yeah.
And they both add stress to the other and make the other one harder, because you feel the more you do of the administrative side, the worse you feel about the parenting side. Because you feel like you're not doing enough parenting, like the quality time and all that, because you're dealing with all the administrative work to keep this boat moving, and
Yeah, and there's going to be a time, I know, when, in fact, I was just talking to, I don't know if Kim Miller's still on, but I was just talking to her. She's got triplets that I think just turned either 10 or 11, and I was saying that at some point, she was telling me at some point, you're going to sit on the couch for cuddle time, and you're going to be the only one there.
Right, because they're busy.
Are busy. They're going to be busy doing other things.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It worries me to some degree, but at the same time, I think because I'm an older mom, right? I just turned 53. I got third graders. Like, for me, I feel like I probably am going to be bummed, but I also feel like, could I ever possibly sit on the couch and watch something and not have to watch Disney?
Yeah, how nice would that be? And I think it's like you commented, you were an older parent where you remember a life. You know how to be a person before.
It's in my mid-40s.
Yeah. So then you think back, because like I look at, like, it's interesting, because like I had friends that, like, straight out of high school, got married to a high school sweetheart, popped out kids, and they've literally had kids since they were, like, my first wife, actually, she had her first kid when she was 20. So like now I have a 3-year-old, her daughters are 16. She's got 2 more years with them, and then they're off to college.
Right.
Where I still have 15 more years. And so it's interesting, because like she was 20 with children. She never knew how to be a person by herself. Yeah. She always had, she moved out of her house with her family, and a year later had kids.
Yeah.
Never was just a person. You and I went a long time, figured out kind of how to just be ourselves, be people, exist in the world, do the things we wanted, sit and watch whatever movie we wanted or TV show. And then we had kids. And so maybe we will be a little, like, with that empty nest syndrome, we might be a little more prepared for it.
Right.
So, but I found one, I was talking to Dustin Nickerson, actually, another local San Diego comic who has 3 children. And he was telling me,
He got married young.
Yeah. They started dating when they were like 16. They got married at 18.
Yeah.
And she's amazing. Dustin and Melissa are just the sweetest people. They seem like wonderful parents. They got great kids. But I remember he made a comment, and I forget who told him, but he was talking to somebody because his son had just turned 10, I think, maybe 10 or 11. And the guy's comment to him was like, hey, just remember, you only have like 7 more summers with him. And it's weird when you put it like that.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, you think like, oh, I got 15 years. But if you like, you know, I've only got 15 summers. I've only got 15 Christmases till they go, till they're off, like they're adults. And once you count it like that, you know, especially with him, if he's got 7 of them left, his kids, 11. Well, now, I mean, he told me that story 2 years ago. So now he's got 5 of them left. And that starts hitting like, oh, wow. Like I need to make sure that the time is, that's when you really start looking at like, how do I maximize the quality time?
Yeah.
And I think the day-to-day routine can and should have quality time in it. But I've really started trying to figure out like how, and Daisy's 3, so it's probably a little jump in the gun. But I've really tried to figure out is like, how do we maximize novelty quality moments? How do I create those? Whether we go camping, whether we go have picnics, we go to the park a lot, we go to the beach a lot. And it's just like, it's like if we're at home, we have all the things we need and it's fine. And she has like a little yard to play in, and pretty much like our house is a kindergarten classroom is what it looks like. But I just find that like, being here is too routine. There's nothing new, nothing like out of the ordinary. Where if we go to this park, we went and got sandwiches, and I was like, and it's something that I want to do. Like, oh, I know there's so many parks in town. Why do I keep going to the same one? Let's go have a picnic at a different park every other day. Because it's new, it's novel, it's new things to talk about, new walkways to walk on, no trees to look at, a new place to put our blanket and blow bubbles. And that's where I'm real, like, to really create the opportunity for the moments.
Yeah.
Because they're like I said, with Dustin, he's got 5 more left, 5 more summers.
And it's hard to do sometimes. I think like, fortunately for me, I'm not a full-time working mom now.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason, like I said, that I stopped and I retired is because I wanted to make sure that I could pursue comedy, which I love, more and differently. Because what I love is important as well.
Mm-hmm. And also, really important. You want to be a good mom, you got to be a happy person.
Yeah. And I wanted to also be able to not come home at 5, rush to dinner, and then off to a show. I wanted to pick my kids up from school, hang out with them for, 4 hours or so, and then go off to a show. So at least 5 days a week, right, I'd have that time. And I'm not really a stay-home mom kind of person. I didn't think I was going to be teaching 3rd grade. I thought I could be in school all day and I could be in a movie theater or, have lunch with my unemployed friends. But that's not happening. But you're right. I mean, I'm learning just as they're learning that right now they're home and not with their friends. And I'm also home and not with my friends. Mm-hmm. The difference is that I am an adult. So I can think about that and figure that out. Whereas, and build time in. My husband's great. Me and my best friend and my cousin went and we spent a couple of days in a resort. And he was here with all the kids, his kids, my cousin's kids. Like he just had them all here.
Yeah,
he's amazing that way. But we can build those in where my kids cannot be like, you know what? I've been home and
I've been around you people.
To my friend John's house
because I need an afternoon
there. Yeah. Or, how long it takes to get there or anything like that. I haven't called to let them know I'm coming, but that's what I'm going to do. They can't do that. So we do have to kind of create.
We have to protect their time. Yeah.
We have to look, today we're going to swim and you can bring a friend, or today we're going to, I've got a couple of friends that have pools in their backyard, so we can still kind of do some distance learning, swimming and distance, socializing and just figuring that out. They can see all their friends on Zoom every day, but they can't see them. They can't
Yeah.
go and be there and play kickball and do all that kind of stuff. So you're right in that I found myself during the summer trying to figure out something that we could do, not different every day, but certainly at least once a week, that we were headed off to do something different, whether
Yeah.
it worked or not, whether they liked it or not, just trying to figure out a little bit of something that they could do. And that means a lot of times, James, and you'll experience things differently as Daisy gets older and has a more of an opinion on things.
Mm-hmm.
But that also means that as a mom, when I'm tired and exhausted and I don't want to go anywhere, man, I still got to try to get up and go.
Yeah. It's not about you.
And if I can't get up and go and I really don't feel like it, I'm the kind of mom where I'm going to set up stuff. Like you can watch a little bit of TV, you can be on your tablet a little bit, but before that, let's do a competition and have you all build your best like Lego dude or Lego person, or
Mm-hmm.
like let's draw a picture. Who's gonna? So still trying to figure out something in their day, even when we're home. But then again, also giving them a break. What do you all want to do today?
Right. What a question too, because I don't remember, and I think maybe it was because I was the youngest, but I don't remember getting asked that.
Oh no.
What do you want to do today? No. Half the time it was like, just get out of the house. Go.
Yeah. Because at this age, I could play in the street.
Oh my God. At this age, at 9, your kids are 9. At this age, I was on a bike 8 blocks away in my neighborhood somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom literally had a whistle. We had a big neighborhood, and she had a whistle, and you could hear the whistle. I think you could hear like 8 streets away. You could still hear it. And that was her thing. She's like, I don't care where you are, as long as you when you hear the whistle, you got 5 minutes. Which pretty much means anywhere in the, you could get your bike home. We could ride our bike home. But it also kept us out of people's houses. So we weren't like going in our friends' houses and like sitting on couches and watching TV or whatever.
Right.
We were outside
on
our bikes, playing in the woods. But at that point, back then that was like what kids, it's sad. It's sad that doesn't seem like kids can do that in most places anymore.
Yeah, we don't have any other kids on our street. But we do have a handful of people now that we kind of know what they're doing and they know what we're doing. So, we've got a couple of play dates so that they at least can see somebody other than each other.
Yeah.
My boys are best friends, so they're always together, where Zoe is like, all right, anybody want to play dolls with me? Every once in a while, she can sucker one of them into playing, because I've got a couple like Ken dolls, so at least they, whatever. I don't care what they play, but every once in a while she'll sucker one of the boys into doing something. But
yeah, that's been really hard with with the pandemic. Before that, we had kind of found this little clique. Like across the street from us, there's 2 little girls that are just older than Daisy, and then down the street there are 2 little boys that are just barely older than them. And we kind of built this we built this little village. We had the village, and all the kids could play together. And Daisy was the smallest, but they all kind of looked out after her. Yet she got pushed around a little and knocked over a couple of times, and she learned that she has to hold her own and play nice. And the other parents, if she was doing something, they'd talk to her and be like, oh, well, we don't do that at this house. We do it like this. And it was this beautiful thing where the village would get together, and everyone was this kind of parenting figure, and everyone was okay with that. If I saw one of the boys do something, the other parents were fine that I'd be like, hey, come here for a second. Hey, we don't do that to our friend. That's not how we behave. Don't do that. Here, maybe try that, and we would parent. And that was it takes a village.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've lost in current societies. We don't have the villages anymore that we used to. And so it was this beautiful thing that oh my gosh, we built this village. We have this wonderful little village for our kids. And then the pandemic hit, and Daisy didn't play with another kid for 4 months straight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's 2. She needs this.
Yeah.
This is so, and
we had a few villagers that we let in camp, and so that kids could have and to be honest, a lot of that was the boys can be here all day with each other, but my girl needed to be with another girl her age. So she's got a couple of friends where she'll go, and she was having some overnights, and
that's good though.
having
the
a
hardest part is like I know we're all trying to be safe, but man, these kids like they need interaction.
yeah. And
So
I
how do
think
you do
there's
that
a way for
safely?
us to do it in a safe way. I mean, if you
Yeah,
know where people are and what they're doing, we're not doing anything. We're pretty much here, but
yeah,
my husband works at Trader Joe's, and he goes into work and he comes home and he jumps in the shower before he does anything else.
right.
I mean, that's the most unsafe probably that we are, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah. That's the exposure, but
yeah,
yeah, pretty much like we've gotten to the point with the neighbor kids that like if they're outside and they're not on top of each other, have fun. One of the neighbors down the street, they have a pool. And so we've been over the summer, Daisy and I would take her down there even when they weren't home. They were like, hey, here's the code to the back gate. Come
nice.
whenever you want. And then, and we just
Yeah,
pool days and stuff. And her and that was kind of nice. Once we could loosen that back up and she could like play in the pool and splash around and things like that with the kids, or, that was nice. We would go into the beach some with them. And that was just so nice to be like, yes, go dig a hole with kids. Go play.
yes. I'm going to talk to some adults. You go and swim. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
So it is 9:15. We have gone over, and yeah, this has been great.
This is great. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like we could keep going for another
I didn't
hour.
want to just have. I had Trenton Davis on.
Love Trent.
Yeah, and he's also a single dad. And
Great comic. Check him out, Trenton Davis. So
Trenton is,
talented.
he's got a daughter my kid's age, so we get to do
Mhm.
some play dates, and my kids absolutely love his daughter.
Okay.
It's so great. Trying to set up an arranged marriage. I'm not sure if Trenton's up for that, but if you're watching Trenton, just you got two boys to choose from. Anyway, and then I had Brian April on, because he and his wife decided not to have kids. And so that was a good. So I've had some good conversations. So I'm glad to have you on. You're a funny guy. People can find you at jamesschrader.com.
That's great. jamesschrader.com.
It's a funny website. Your picture is the picture that you have on there when you first pull it up
Is me like screaming into the microphone.
Hysterical. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Are you anywhere local where people can find you within the next couple of weeks?
You know what? No, I don't have anything on the calendar. I just did shows. I was up in Escondido. I did some, and then there's a backyard show that's popping up. It's a secret show because right now everything's kind of like what's legal, what's not legal.
Yeah.
But I still think there's safe ways. We did it outside at a park, and we had like 150 people there. It was amazing.
Nice.
It worked. Like I'm not a fan of outdoor shows, but right now I'm like I just miss being on stage. So I was like, yeah, I'll do your outside show, thinking it's going to be horrible like all the others. This actually worked. It worked really well. There was like I said, 150 people, which is the most you're going to see.
Yeah, a nice little crowd.
And everyone was spread out. It was like a mini amphitheater. Like everyone was up on the lawn. It worked out really well. So I've gotten up a few times. Nothing coming up, but at jamesschrader.com you can see future things. I'll have it posted there. My podcast is launching soon, and yeah. So, but thank you so much for having me on. And I love talking parenting because it's like there is no right answer. And it's all terrifying, and we all feel like we're failing most of the time, but you're not. As long as you care and you're learning from your own mistakes and you're willing to apologize to your child, which I think is important too.
And as long as you're not beating your kid and leaving lots of marks.
Yeah, don't do it. It's not. Yeah,
don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, thank you,
Lisa.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and joining in, and thank you, James, for being on. And hopefully, when this is all over, we'll be able to be on the stage again sometime.
Oh, I can't wait. I look forward to it.
All right.
Have a great night. Bye, everybody. Bye.